Sri Lanka scored 250 or thereabouts. India have an opener giving them a good start. He falls and then the others collapse in a heap, primarily to Sri Lankan spin. Might have taken many across the India-Sri Lanka border back to 1996. And we've witnessed a result which has in fact taken us almost as far back, because for the first time since 1997, Sri Lanka have beaten India in a bilateral men's ODI series. The first for Gautam Gambhir in this format as head coach. So a lot for us to take away from this three-match contest in Sri Lanka. Let's dive straight in. No bigger factor, no bigger storyline at play than India being all at sea facing Sri Lankan spin, with the exception of Rohit Sharma. 27 wickets India lost to Sri Lanka spinners in just 3 games. That's by far the most for any team in a bilateral 3-match men's ODI series, the previous record being 21. Now you have to factor in that Sri Lanka did get the better of the conditions by winning the toss. You saw that the second half assisted spin a lot more than the first half, but even given that, India surely have to be bothered by the manner and the consistency in which most of their pedigreed batting lineup struggled in the face of Sri Lanka spinners. And it must be pointed out that Sri Lanka were without their ace spinner Vanindu Hasaranga after the first game. With the exception of Rohit Sharma, the rest of India's top 7 batters averaged just about 16 while striking at 75 in these 3 matches. That strike rate in a relatively low scoring series is okay, but 18 innings among all those top 7 batters accruing less than 300 runs is surely a sign of concern. Remove Rohit and the next highest run scorer was Akshar Patel, who made 79, and the others are all in the range of 60 or fewer runs. Kohli, Gill, Shreyas Iyer and Shivam Dube were the constants, playing every game. You saw some chopping and changing, with KL Rahul sitting out in the last game, Rishabh Pant getting a run, Riyan Parag featuring in the last game. India do have a lot of options, but if their batters aren't striking form, they don't have too many ODIs left. Only one 3-match series remaining before the Champions Trophy for them to figure out what their ideal ODI batting mix is going to be. The other common ailment for India throughout this series was the lack of penetration from their pacers. Mohammed Siraj, a wrecker-in-chief against Sri Lanka over the past year or so, especially in ODIs. 3 matches for him ended with 3 wickets. Arshdeep Singh also only picked up 2 wickets in the 2 games he played. Both of them averaged over 50. Both of them conceded over 6 per over in what was a relatively low-scoring series. And it continued a theme that you've observed in Indian ODI cricket for some time, where you remove Jasprit Bumrah and you begin to wonder how much teeth there is in the Indian pace attack. And that particularly hurt them when you look at the recoveries Sri Lanka made, especially in the first 2 games. They were 6 for around 130 or 140 in those first 2 games, but ended up scoring 230 and 240. And that had a big bearing on those outcomes. So the lack of penetration among India's pacers points to a question that they'll hope to find an answer to sooner than later. Now, something that made for interesting viewing from an Indian perspective was that they were looking to try a lot of different things out. The biggest of them being going big on batting depth. Shivam Dube was number 8 in the first ODI, Washington Sundar number 8 in the second, and then an even deeper batting lineup saw Washington Sundar at number 9 in the third, because India went with only one outright seamer in Mohammed Siraj, with Shivam Dube being the second seam option, and it also meant India bowled 37 overs of spin. When was the last time you remember seeing that? Impressively, Riyan Parag contributed to those overs, and with 354 on ODI debut, so a good start for him. And I know Rohit Sharma said at the start of the series that this is not a ground for experiments, but is it really such a bad thing that India tried different things out? Can you think of the number of occasions when they've lost a big World Cup game and the questions have surrounded them about, why they didn't try different things in bilateral series going into those competitions? Now it looks like they are willing to try those things. And finally, we must doff our hats to Sri Lanka, because they have something to savor after a while in men's international cricket. It becomes quite a great month for them, because the women won the Asia Cup for the first time just before this contest began. But for the men, it had been bleak over the past couple of years. They won't be at the Champions Trophy next year. They only qualified for the ODI World Cup last year from the qualifiers, and they've not been particularly impressive at the last few T20 World Cups either. So for them, this monkey of their back winning a bilateral series against India after so long will mean so much, and there are so many positives they've got from this. They have a consistent top order after a while. Pathum, Nissanka, Kusal, Mendis and Avishka, Fernando all contributed in most games, and for Nissanka and Kusal Mendis, it continued a good run of form from the T20Is earlier. Then you also had, of course, the impact of spin. And for their spinners to have so much impact despite losing one into Hasaranga after the first game, both so well for them. Charita Salanka, the captain himself, coming among the wickets, but the biggest star, of course, has to be Dunith Wellalage. He was the man who turned the first game with an unbeaten half century, which ended in a tie, and then won the last game with a fifer, proving to be a bit of a thorn in India's flesh. Made quite the waves at the Asia Cup last year as well. So you put all that together, and Sri Lanka have some signs of positivity around their ODI setup, which they haven't had for a while now.